So a little bit of a slow up. We chose the quickest route from where we were overnight to Girona. For some bizarre reason, Google, despite putting in toll roads, which we've just used for the last couple of hours, has taken us to Paris. Don't mind Paris, it's a very nice place. But I'm not quite sure why the so-called quickest route involved going through the centre of Paris. So we can see the Eiffel Tower, and we're averaging at about 5 to 10 miles an hour. So morning, day 2 in France, so we're on a bit of a crazy mission now. President Macron announced a new lockdown for France, which takes effect this evening, Thursday at midnight. And although he's outlined the vague kind of impact of the lockdown, the specifics are being announced later today. But it's not a full lockdown like the previous one, but it is in effect a lockdown. But schools remain open. Universities and colleges closed with pupils working at home, essential travel and bars, restaurants all closing, small walks allowed and so on, but he didn't mention whether the borders were closing or what the impact would be for people on holiday or in motorhomes or nomads like ourselves. So we're kind of erring on the side of the worst or caution, so we're going to race to Spain, which equally is just as confusing because the Spanish president announced that the municipalities have autonomy to make their own lockdowns and rules. So the rules are different in each area of Spain, and at the moment all the municipalities that border the French border are already red or purple restrictions, which are the most severe, some with no through travel. So as of this morning, there's only one part of the border that's currently technically open, which thankfully is the one on the coast, travelling through on the main road that goes to Girona. But that also allegedly is perhaps closing today, tomorrow, or in the next week. So we're on a race really to get through France as quickly as possible and then get across the Spanish border into one of the areas that's less affected at the moment, and see if we can find somewhere to bed down. So the race is on. Not actually sure if we'll make it. I have to see how we get on. Weather is absolutely awful. Had monsoon-like rain in the night, and we're not just talking rain, we're talking like epic biblical rain. Spitting with rain at the moment, pretty chilly. And we're chasing John and Mandy, who are 3 or 4 days ahead of us. They've crossed France in a couple of days and they're now in Spain, and the weather's nice there, so that's an upside. So follow this blog and our next few days to see where we get to, what restrictions we come across, how we get on, if indeed we make it at all. So it's going to be a challenge. So let's see how we get on today. Guys, little update. So we've driven for 1 hour and 15 minutes and we've done 78 miles, so not bad. So we've broken our budget rules and we've decided to use toll roads to speed things up. Saves us about 4 hours getting from where we were to the border in Spain. So we're about 9.5 hours from Girona, so probably about 9 hours to the Spanish border down by the coast. We're travelling at 72 miles an hour on average on the toll roads. The nice thing is it's pretty stress-free because the roads are very quiet. They're always quiet in France, but the toll roads are lovely and flat, lovely and quiet. Our van has a limiter, so we're limited to 72 miles an hour, and the speed limit is 130 kilometers an hour, which is about 80, so we can't make the speed limit. But we're just cruising along, and we're stopping every hour, hour and a half for a little stretch of the legs, a little stop for the dogs. So we're going to head off for another hour or so, see how we get on.
in there. £20.80. Where do I pay? Oh, there. Contactless? Oh, that's it.
So a little bit of a slow up. We chose the quickest route from where we were overnight to Girona. And for some bizarre reason, Google, despite putting in toll roads, which we've just used for the last couple of hours, has taken us to Paris. Don't mind Paris, it's a very nice place. I'm not quite sure why the so-called quickest route involved going through the centre of Paris, so we can see the Eiffel Tower. And we're averaging at about 5 to 10 miles an hour. And we've been in the traffic for half an hour, and we've taken 3 minutes off our journey time in that time to Spain. So just when you need to go quick. We had this last week where we were plotting a route to take my son to the train station. Said it was 55 minutes, but if we put in a stop, it dropped to 35 minutes. So Google's not always intuitive. I think it takes you on the most direct route, which is not necessarily always the fastest route. Oh well, not like we're in a rush or anything, or there's a pandemic and a lockdown on, eh? Oh my god, that was hell. So Google, in her wisdom, or his wisdom, for some bizarre reason, as I said earlier, took us into Paris on the ring road, which is like a hellish version of the M25, but about 100 million times busier. And then when we got to the péage, which would have taken us out of Paris, it had a 2-metre height restriction, so we couldn't go on. So Google wouldn't allow us to avoid that, so we had to just take a punt, and we ended up not going around the outskirts of Paris, but actually going to the Arc de Triomphe, which was immediately in front of us. Unbelievable. And then half of Paris is underground, so there's no GPS signal, and Google thinks you're above ground when she sends you underground. So we spent 2 hours driving round at about 5 miles an hour. So we've done 137 miles in 4 and a bit hours. So we've basically lost 2 hours of our already tight schedule. So it's still 8.5 hours to Spain, and it's now 2:20. And we've been driving for a long time, so I'm already knackered, particularly having been stop-start, first gear, second gear for 2 hours. So it's all a bit Pete Tong. So we've just pulled over for some nice toasties, and we're at a garage on the side of the motorway just coming out of Paris, heading towards the next péage, so hopefully we'll get some speed up. But lockdown starts at midnight tonight, so I don't really fancy driving all night to get to Spain, so I think we'll probably park up later and do 3 or 4 hours tomorrow if we can. Or I might carry on driving and see how I feel once we get onto a faster road, but there's a lot of traffic, so not fun. I'd like to thank you for watching yesterday's video after a 2-week break. I've had a lot of views, so thanks very much for that, and many comments. Somebody asked, did we have to fill out the paperwork for France when we arrived in France, which is supposed to complete at the border control? The answer is no, there was no paperwork asked for. No gendarme, nothing at all, just straight out. So a lot of what you see on the news about the supposed rules is actually not entirely accurate, because nobody's policing it. So hopefully that continues, and I hope we get a bit of speed up. So I'll catch you in a bit, give you an update, and you can see what our hellish day has been like. So will we make it to Spain is still the big question. Will we get in? Will the border be open? Can we get to Catalonia or Girona before that border closes? All a bit tense. So in good and uplifting news, I have a cheese toastie coming, which has been in our Ridge Monkey. Oh, look at that coming through. Look at that, nice cheese toastie. Oh, cheesy. So there is some good stuff happening in the van today. So excuse me while I just gorge myself on a cheese toastie.